We started hearing rumors about AIDS in the late 70s, early 80s. And the hemophilia population heard that one or two of us had gotten AIDS as well. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that there may be a connection within the blood supply. A friend of mine with hemophilia, who I'd known since the early days of being in clinic together as young boys, he had a party at his house, and it was a bunch of guys with hemophilia, and one of the guys was sick. And you could tell he was jaundiced and kind of withdrawn, and it's like, my cousin looked over me, he says, I don't want to be here. He says, I think that guy's got AIDS. I said, dude, we all got AIDS. My wife and I went in to get tested, and within a couple of days, Dr. Jack called us up and said, you've been using a lot of clotting factor all this time, so you both have HIV and you're walking time bombs, and it's only a matter of time until you're dead. Which wasn't really the way he should have presented that information on the phone. I lived with the idea that I had HIV for 3 years. Now, subsequent to that, I had a friend, this was at the university that I'd gone to school at, and one of my friends worked in the labs and said, you know, I looked up your results, you guys are negative. I said, really? So we'll get tested again. So I went down to the Bay Area and I went to talk with Dr. Kerper, who's now the medical director for the Hemophilia Foundation. She tested me, she goes, yeah, well, it came back negative, but they had to have screwed it up. There's no way that you could be negative. There's just no way. You took all that factor with all the rest, same factor that all those other guys are taking, there's just no way. Years and years later, I got a call from Marion saying, she goes, I think I found out why you were negative. You have the CCR5 gene, which means that your T4 lymphocyte has a damaged receptor site on it that the HIV virus doesn't recognize. We can still give you HIV, but it's more difficult. And so I believe that's how I escaped without that. In 1984, I was able to get some of the first heat-treated factor. The woman that I'd gone to Japan with came back and said, look, we have this new product, it's heat-treated. We know that it kills the hepatitis C virus. We don't know what HIV is, but it might be a virus, and it might be like hepatitis C, and this might kill it. Whatever it is, you should be using the best we have, which is this product. And so I was one of the earlier adopters of that heat-treated product. That's one of the factors that went into the fact that I dodged the bullet. All of us with hemophilia, particularly those of us that were born in the 50s and 60s, we were all told that we were going to die by the time we were 13. And I think one of the reasons that the hemophilia population took so long to get so mad and to fight back is because we thought that it was just another thing, right? Okay, my ankle doesn't work anymore, or I had to get my ankle removed, taken off because it won't work anymore. Oh, my elbows, I can't use my elbows anymore. Oh, AIDS, yeah. Hepatitis, yeah. We've been kind of battling against all these things, but AIDS took out more of us than all the rest. And it took a long time for the anger to grow up in the community and really fight back. There's a lot of revisionist history in dealing with what happened during the AIDS crisis. The clinicians could have done more, but you have to understand that they were trained as hematologists. Their specialty was clotting. And all of a sudden they were thrust into the role of an infectious disease doc. And some of them did better with it than others. In hindsight, there's a lot of things that could have been done, but I don't think anybody was ready for the magnitude and the breadth of the disaster that was coming. And plus, there aren't that many of us. We're this small, expensive population, and we're always more vulnerable because of that. There are a number of theories and a number of memos and emails and whatnot to show that some members of the pharmaceutical industry were aware of the problem long before the HIV epidemic hit, and probably could have been doing heat-treated plasma early in the 70s and avoided the whole thing. It was probably a profit motive, because when you heat the factor, you lose some. You have to understand that they still hadn't isolated whatever it was that was causing HIV, so it's really hard to say, gee, you should have known that this was coming. They did know hepatitis, and they could have made the drugs hepatitis-free earlier on, which would have avoided that. Without the hemophilia community, I believe that the HIV crisis would have gone on for a longer period of time. Hemophilia put this clean little heterosexual boy in the spotlight. They firebombed our houses. They threw us out of school. They closed the businesses of men that had spent their whole lives building a career for themselves. I think that was a compelling story. It helped wake up the country and say, look, we got to do more than what we're doing.